Hi, my name is Nik Koulogeorge. I'm a new business development specialist with Kiwanis Service Leadership Programs, and this session is creating growth partnerships between Kiwanis and SLP clubs. In this session, we'll do a brief overview of each of the SLP programs. We'll talk about the benefits of SLP membership that you can share with educators or school administrators when you're proposing new clubs or even with potential members. And we'll also talk about how to identify growth opportunities when you are setting up a growth plan for your district. Going right into the service leadership programs. The first, any student in elementary school starting age 6 can join K-Kids if they have a K-Kids club at their school. So K-Kids is our youngest service leadership program. It's student-led, just like all of our programs, you'll see that. And there are more than 36,000 members worldwide. Once elementary students graduate into middle school or junior high school, they can join a builders club. So much like K-Kids, it is a student-led community service club for junior or high school students. Brian, I'm gonna need to start this over. I'm just gonna go back to the beginning. I'm sure they can cut it.
Not a problem. Let me press stop recording.
This conference will now be recorded.
Hi, I'm Nik Koulogeorge, new business development specialist with Kiwanis Service Leadership Programs, and this session is creating growth partnerships between Kiwanis and SLP clubs. In this session, we are going to review each of the SLP programs. We'll talk about the benefits of membership that you can share with educators or school administrators when you're promoting service leadership programs. And we'll also talk about how to identify growth opportunities for whenever you're creating a growth strategy for your district. The first of our programs starts at elementary school and is called K-Kids. K-Kids is a student-led community service club. All of our service leadership programs are student-led. They offer wonderful leadership opportunities, which we'll talk about later. There are more than 36,000 K-Kids members worldwide already. So as young as the age of 6, these kids are already getting involved in community service and leadership. When they move on to middle or junior high school, they can then join a builders club. Builders clubs, just like K-Kids, are student-led community service clubs, and we have more than 1,500 clubs in 18 different countries. Builders Club and K-Kids are our two kit-based clubs. So the sponsoring Kiwanis Club and advisor will receive a kit with all of the resources that they need to facilitate club programs and meetings throughout the year. And this sheet is an example of what comes in the kit. So this sheet comes on the top of every kit, and you can see that we have workbooks for officers and members. There are things to help with meetings like table tents for their names. Members also get buttons as well as advisor buttons and more. One of the cool things about K-Kids and Builders Club kits are that they include the idea toolkit for club officers. So like I said, these are student-led clubs, and we're offering students the leadership opportunities as young as the age of 6. So this toolkit really helps young people learn how to be leaders. It teaches them how to set goals, how to prepare events. So it's getting kids in middle school, elementary school, or junior high to think weeks in advance of planning a program, which is not something that's necessarily built into the curriculum of most schools. There are also guides for each officer. So here you can see a president guide. Whenever a student is elected to a position, they will get their own guide that'll teach them the expectations of their role, and it'll include worksheets and resource pages to help them understand how to be the best version of their position throughout the entire year. Members also receive handbooks. They are colorful and fun and include activities to keep them interested and engaged in the club throughout the year. We wanted to make sure that every person who joins the club has something physical that they can use throughout the year, just to show that they are a member and to give them some sort of personal connection to the club. Key Club, which you may be familiar with, most of the world is familiar with Key Club. It is our largest of the SLP programs. It's the oldest and largest student-led service club for high school students in the world. There are more than 250,000 members in 34 nations for Key Club. And one of the cool things about Key Club, as well as Circle K, which we'll get to next, is that there are leadership opportunities at the club, district, and international levels. So beyond being involved in a student club at a school, Key Club is one of the few high school organizations that allows students to extend beyond their local campus, their local community, and really take on a leadership position that has impacts on an international level. Just like with K Kids and Builders Club, there are plenty of resources available for Key Club advisors as well as members. The advisor guides for all of our clubs allow advisors to keep track of everything that needs to take place over the course of the year for the club, including contests, when payments are due, etc. And each of the officer positions in Key Club have their own handbook as well. Another cool fact about the Key Club, and something that should be shared with every Kiwanis club who sponsors a Key Club or works with the Key Club, are Youth Opportunities Fund grants. These are grants, $1,000 to $2,000, which can be awarded to clubs to help them fund their projects so they can supercharge their involvement in their local community. And clubs have until October 15th of every year to submit applications for Youth Opportunities Funds. So it's something to consider, especially when you think about the limited resources that high schools have, and especially high school students have. Being able to have an extra $1,000 or $2,000 to plan a program can really make or break the success of that program. It can help with marketing, it can help with just getting supplies set up or reserving spaces. After high school, members can join a Kiwanis Club, of course, or if they go to college, they can join Circle K International. So just like Key Club, this is an international organization. There are leadership opportunities at club, district, and international levels. And currently, Circle K is located at more than 500 campuses in 14 different countries. Finally, one of the prides of service leadership programs is Action Club. Action Club is the only service club for adults living with disabilities. So those with disabilities, students with disabilities can join any of the youth programs Kiwanis has to offer. Once they graduate, they can move into Action Club, which has over 11,000 members in 14 different nations. It's an international club for adults living with disabilities. In addition to our club involvements, we have mentoring and recognition programs. The first of which, and there is an additional session primarily about Key Leader and servant leadership, is Key Leader. Key Leader is a 2.5-day weekend program for high school students as well as graduating 8th graders to cover the concepts of servant leadership. It includes large and small group discussion sessions, team building activities, personal reflection. Students will set goals for themselves, they'll discuss their values, and a lot of the students have never really discussed their values before, have never really written down what they value and what it would take to maintain those values. Another cool thing about Key Leader is 40 to 50% of the students who attend any given Key Leader are not Key Club members. So this is a wonderful opportunity to recruit additional students into Key Club or to identify schools where there are not currently Key Clubs and students who have already taken part in a service leadership program and may want to create their own Key Club at their own school. Other recognition programs that we have are for the elementary level, Bring Up Grades and Terrific Kids. Bring Up Grades is obviously a grades recognition program. It helps students by celebrating together as a class whenever they set goals and achieve those goals related to their academic performance. So just like the kits that you would get with a K Kids or Builders Club, Bring Up Grades is a bunch of materials that educators can use to encourage students to focus on academic pursuits. It includes peer mentoring. On the other side of things, we have Terrific Kids. Terrific Kids is about character and behavior and developing relationships. So the focus of Terrific Kids is a little bit different in that it's about developing self-esteem and gaining life skills like setting personal goals and making good choices. Both of these are critical, especially at such a young age. And so they rely on a little bit of positive reinforcement, but they also help people set goals and learn skills that are going to help them throughout middle school, junior high school, college, and beyond. When you're promoting SLPs to educators or school administrators or even to potential members or parents of potential members, it's important to cover the benefits. What is this going to result in? How is this going to benefit the student who's taking part in it? And you'll realize that the benefits are not too different than a typical Kiwanis club, so it's not too much of a stretch. And we'll have links to resources which highlight some of these benefits of volunteering in one's community. The first is a sense of social responsibility. People understand what the needs are in their community. They might be exposed to cultures or living situations or conditions that they may have never seen firsthand. It's a really wonderful opportunity for students to connect to the community outside of their school. We also offer leadership opportunities, as discussed before. So when you're considering the value proposition, in addition to service, we offer leadership and, in some cases, international levels of leadership. Service is also linked to helping people identify their vocation or where they'd like to take their career. So people may see a need in their community and decide to serve for life, or it may alter the job path that they have in their mind so that they can focus on those needs after they've completed their schooling. And finally, and one of the most important things for this generation, we believe, is that these clubs help people develop social ties, social connectedness. It helps them feel connected to the other students in their schools. It helps them feel connected to the school itself and to the community. And something that's really popular with educators is dissecting different generations. So these are two examples of books. You can call this current generation of students iGen or Gen Z. We haven't necessarily settled on a name, but one thing that's known about them is despite being connected to more information than any generation in history, they're also one of the loneliest generations in history. And helping these students connect not only with other students, helping them make friends, but helping them find a place to serve in the community, helping them develop leadership opportunities and self-esteem is very important for this generation in particular. So this is something educators are paying attention to, and it's a great way to discuss service leadership programs when you're talking about bringing a club to a new school. So you're starting a growth plan. You'd like to have a strategy in place for how you establish new service leadership programs. And where do you start? We always like to say start by identifying areas of need or areas of opportunity. And the first place, and probably the easiest place, is to look at your existing Kiwanis clubs. So you can get in touch with any of us at Kiwanis International or us on the growth team at Service Leadership Programs to discover which of the Kiwanis clubs are sponsoring service leadership programs and which clubs are not currently sponsoring service leadership programs. Those clubs who are not sponsoring programs are great places to start. Get in touch with them, see if there are any schools in their area that they already have a relationship with, or where they would like to establish a relationship. The next would be to consider school districts that have at least one service leadership program already. So if there is a school district, depending on how those districts are set up, there might be a high school in an area with a Key Club, but there are not any Builders Club or K-Kids clubs in the area. So it's really easy to promote a Builders Club where there's already a Key Club because you're creating a natural gateway for those students when they graduate middle school or junior high to have a set of friends in high school, to have a familiar place to go, and it's connected to Kiwanis. So this is one continuous opportunity for them to stay engaged and stay involved with a group of friends. You also might want to consider referrals from existing members. This can include Kiwanis members, but also members of existing service leadership programs. And that just means figuring out if they know of people, family, or friends who are attending schools in the area. Going to an educator or the school administrator and acknowledging that there are already 10 students at that school who might be interested in joining this club saves them a lot of thinking on their end of who is going to be interested in this type of thing. So going to a school with a list of potential interested members is always going to be a benefit when you're trying to convince them to allow the establishment of a Kiwanis club at their school. And finally, it's always good to look at schools and districts with service requirements, especially a lot of charter schools have service requirements, a lot of private schools have service requirements, but many school districts in general are picking up service requirements because colleges are also looking to community service when they're determining which students they'd like to admit. So if you find schools that have service requirements but no clubs, it might be an easy sell to explain that a service leadership program is going to help students meet those goals. It'll help facilitate service projects, and that any student can reasonably take part in any key leader or key club project. If you've got a service, if you're building a community garden in an area, there's no reason it has to be limited to only members of a club. It can be an outlet for a lot of students to experience service. On the back end, you'll want to make sure that you have things prepared for that club to be successful for the long term. So we have some tips here like identifying advisors early on so that they can be caught up on Kiwanis's youth protection expectations so we can make sure that they have a background check, etc. You'll also want to make sure that the sponsoring club or district has an expense item in the budget. We don't want any surprise items in the budget. There are plenty of resources for officer training and support, so having that gathered and ready and able to deliver to the advisor early on is going to be important so that they can hit the ground running. And then finally, on the back end, it's good to establish familiarity with both the club and the school. Making sure that Kiwanis clubs have relationships with the schools in their district is going to make those schools want to continue supporting service leadership programs at their school. The same thing can be said with the club. The students seeing that continuity, seeing that Kiwanis members are visiting club meetings once a month or something like that, will help them understand that they're a part of a bigger picture. And it may encourage students who are in K-Kids to then join Builders Club, to then join Key Club, and you create a recruitment funnel that can actually help grow the Kiwanis Club in the long term. Finally, if you scroll down, you'll see resources for this session. And included in that sheet will have benefits of volunteerism for youth, so links that you can use to help promote volunteering and service leadership programs, as well as resource sections for each of the service leadership programs on their respective websites, and contact information for the growth team if you need support with presentations, or if you need support finding out which clubs in your area do not currently sponsor a service leadership program. That'll all be available, and you can reach out to us to find out more. Thanks for taking part in the session. Again, this was creating growth partnerships between Kiwanis and SLP clubs, and I'm Nik Koulogeorge with Kiwanis Service Leadership Programs.